I've been on a journey traveling the world, exploring new food, new cultures, and people, listening to their stories along the way and experiencing my own. Welcome to The Journey. All right, this is The Journey Podcast. I'm Chad Stankowski. I'm your host. This is going to be totally unscripted. It's not scripted. I may have a couple notes, but I have no cue cards. I am not going to be a scripted podcast. I decided to kind of add to this journey. It's The Journey Podcast. I'm telling one story at a time, tell stories of other guests that I've had in the past and future guests that I'll have. Telling also my story. I have a lot of stories to tell. I'm not going to tell them all on this podcast, but I thought I'd kind of break it up and do like a podcast on my own, kind of do a quote of the day, kind of a topic of the day, maybe facts, kind of break up the monotony of everyday life. This is something that I wouldn't say, maybe I will say it's a dream. It's something that I've been working on for a long time. So I used to do internet radio and then, Google, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, none of that was around back then. And so I wasn't really able to blow it up and really do it the way I wanted to do it back then. It wasn't a thing. So now I have that opportunity to do it, and I'm really wanting to capitalize on that. And it doesn't matter if I have, a lot of viewers, listeners, whatever you want to call them. This is what I love to do. This is what I want to do. And if it helps one person, if each episode that I do helps one person, that's all that matters. The quote of the day is expect problems and eat them for breakfast. So I got my coffee here. By the way, it's not breakfast time. It's not the morning. It's actually at night that I'm recording this because I have a day job. I work for a major aerospace company, and I work as a continuous improvement specialist there. That's right. So it's kind of working on processes in a manufacturing environment, engineering, and working to make those processes better. So that's my day job right now. At night, a wife, 4 kids, it's pretty packed, staying pretty busy. But I think that's what life is all about, staying busy, doing something that you enjoy, especially having a passion and then following that passion. So if there's people out there that, you just have a passion, you're motivated to do something, you just got to do it. You just got to jump. And the thing is, like I said, this is totally unscripted. I don't want it to be scripted. Yeah, I have some ideas of things that I want to talk about, but as you'll notice, it's not, I'm not reading off a teleprompter. Listen, there's people that do that. That's not me. That's not what I want. I don't want a teleprompter. I'm not a newscaster. I'm not reading off of something. This is just, it's real, it's raw, it's me. And I think that's what, is going to help people the most, is being able to just talk, tell your story, talk about maybe your problems in the past, how you overcame them. And that's really what's going to help people. That's what people want to hear, I think. This journey of mine, I'm 43. My journey started, I would say, over 25 years ago. One story, I was 19 years old, and I grew up in Michigan, and I took a journey from Michigan down to Mexico. I think that's when the journey really kind of started for me. It was probably, I was about 19 years old, and I left Michigan and we drove down to Mexico. At one point I sold my car, I bought bus tickets, and I rode the whole eastern coast of Mexico from Matamoros, Mexico, which is right on the other side of Brownsville, Texas. Went through Veracruz, went through the whole eastern coast, all the way over to the Yucatan, Quintana Roo, over to Cancun area, and I worked there, and it was for about 3 months. And I'll tell you, there's things that I saw. It was beautiful countryside, people that I met, just experiences, and that was really the beginning, I would say, of the journey, where it was just kind of like I jumped and went for it. It was literally like, we have little money, We're driving down there, and it's something that I would never change. I wouldn't change that story because it was so much that I learned from it. And just like, hey, we get down there, and we needed, like, it was almost like a pass to go from state to state, this different checkpoints. And they said, this is how much you need. And we didn't have it. We didn't have a credit card on us. And it was like, okay, what's our next step? Go back to Brownsville. Can we sell the car? Yeah, it was like a 1988 Cutlass Supreme. And I think at like $700, $750. Bought bus tickets. Uno, it's like the Mexican Greyhound, and jumped on them in like 2 days. Rode the whole Eastern Coast. That was the beginning. Now I am here. That was 2000. So here we are 23 years later. And I'm holding my I Love Singapore cup. Got a whole other story of that. Been to Singapore several times. One of my favorite countries in the Southeast Asia area. One of the cleanest, probably the cleanest country that I've been to all over the world. So today, the power of positive thinking. There was several times during that first story of going down to Mexico that I could have focused on the negative things. I could have focused on the fact that we didn't have the money to get where we wanted to get. And I'll tell you, I mean, things might be different today, but we rode for 2 days on a bus after we sold the car. We could have said, hey, we can't get the passes to cross the border. We don't have the money. We don't have this. We don't have that. But we didn't. We said, we have a destination. We have a goal. And we're going to get there. And it was like at all costs. And which came down to, hey, sell the car. We literally went across back to Brownsville, found a car dealership. Hey, we want to sell this car. How much will you give us for it? And actually one guy came over to that dealership and said, hey, he's not going to give you what you're looking for. Come over here. So we got done with, he offered us whatever, went back over to the other place. Like I said, it was like $700, $750. But we didn't focus on the negative things. Hey, that's a positive. I can get that. $700, $750. I can buy bus tickets. I'll have extra money left over. Shorter passports, jumped on the bus, and literally 2 days later, we're arriving in Paradise, Cancun, Mexico at that time. This was like 2000. Now, the place I lived wasn't Paradise because I lived in the actual city of Cancun, which is away from the tourist zone. If you've ever been to Cancun, it's like a shape of a 7. It's an island, but it's so close, but you don't even really think it's an island. The hotel zone, hundreds of hotels, manicured trees and bushes and just crystal clear water, blue water. I was in the city. It was completely different. The locals thought that I was up to no good. They saw this, 6'2" white guy from America, young guy, is like thinking I was, a drug dealer or something. I'm like, no. I'm living here. I was actually going down there to work at a hotel. And it was an awesome time. There was a lot of great experiences, but the power of just keeping that positive thinking would shape the next 23 years. That I could do that, think like, man, there's a lot that I could do. And sometimes I think we forget those things. We forget those wins, those things that we did well at, those times where it got difficult. And being able to remember that is beneficial. If you've never read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, he talks about the cookie jar, kind of the cookie jar of life, the things that we've done in our life. He says that there's times where he did ultra running. He was a Navy SEAL, and there was times, go through the training or the running, just anything any kind of endurance sport that he did. There was times that he had to remind himself when it was like getting really, really difficult. kind of reach down to that cookie jar and pull that thing out to be like, hey, you know what? I remember I'm a badass. I've done this in the past. I've done that. To remind yourself those wins that you've had in the past. To remind yourself, hey, I'm going to make it through this. I made it through it before. I'm going to make it through this. And I'm not going to quit. I'm going to do just fine. And that's the power of positive thinking, to be able to think about those things that you've done in the past and keep yourself in that mindset, because our minds are going to go towards those negative things. And we don't need negative thoughts, because it's like a virus. It'll take over our own brain, our own thinking, and then that's passed on to others. And especially when you got kids, because I got 4 of my own, when you start to have those negative things creep into your mind, it starts affecting your actions, and then your kids see the same thing. And you need to be able to push through that. Not saying that it's going to be easy, because it's not easy. There's times that it gets very, very difficult. There's times that you're going to slip, and maybe you're not going to accomplish it, but that's okay. It's like they say, you're going to fall, but if you get back up, you're going to fall. And I've fallen many times. Many, many times. Some really hard. Hit the ground hard, but guess what? You just got to get back up. And it's through experience. You're figuring that out. It's not just reading a book. It's not, just saying, oh, it's going to be easy. It's hard. At times it's really hard. But listen, you're going to make it through it, because there's no other options. You're going to push through it. You might not push through it the best, but guess what? You're going to push through it. You're going to make it. And just that little bit of making it is a stepping stone for you to continue to be positive, or at least in a positive upward fashion, to accomplish something. Because then you can look back at that and be like, yeah, look, I made it through. Maybe the next time it'll get a little bit easier. But life is, it's all about a struggle. It's about a journey. I tell my kids that all the time, and they're like, oh, here we go. Not again. He's talking about the journey. It's like, yes, I am. You must. It's not a race. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And sometimes you have to live 20 years, 30, 40 years to figure that out. And even me, living for almost 44 years now, I still realize, like, hey, there's a lot of time. There's a lot for me to learn. I'm not even close to knowing that much. I'm never going to know everything. But just to continue understanding it's a journey, it's a marathon. Not saying to take it slow. There's times for slow, and there's times for some speed, to work fast. But just to remind yourself that, hey, it ain't going to happen overnight. And all of those bad and good experiences, all those experiences are going to benefit you one day, that you can look back at it. And even though you were angry, or you cried, you were upset, you were irritated, you weren't motivated, you weren't inspired, you weren't driven, guess what now? Maybe you can be. You can look back at that and you can say, you know what, you can smile and you can say, yeah, maybe one day, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But the fact of the matter is, you just cannot give up. You have to keep pushing through it. If you have something that you're not passionate about, find something. Find something you love. Not something that's going to make you a lot of money. Because I know we all as kids probably grow up thinking that. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. I'm going to be a basketball superstar. I'm going to be a YouTube superstar. Because what? Because it's going to make you a bunch of money? Yeah, it'd be great. Money'd be great, but make sure that you're doing something that you love to do. But listen, these podcasts that I do, it's going to be just me, and I'm bringing other guests like I've had in the past. Like I've talked with Jesse Cole, episode number 1. And that was actually when it was called, What's Your Passion? Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas. I talked with him, talked about his journey. Talked with Cameron Hughes. He's a crowd igniter. I actually learned about him through Jesse Cole. Jesse Awuji, he is a NASCAR driver, a naval officer. He owns the NASCAR team, esports company. Needed some more coffee. These people, I'm meeting them along the way, and I'm learning from them and from their experiences. And then last year, I ended up changing the name to The Journey because I was having a discussion with one of the guys at the car show. It's like, I'm calling it What's Your Passion? But after listening to his story, it hit me. It was just so perfect. I was like, you know what? This needs to be called The Journey, because that's what it is. Life is a journey. I've been on a journey, traveling around the world, all over Southeast Asia. Spent some time living in Turkey for like a year, visited some other place in Europe, Romania, beautiful place. It's a journey. And all of those experiences make it such a great journey. And listening to his story, I was like, you know what? It's so perfect. I need to call it The Journey. I'm changing the name. And I understand there's other podcasts out there that are called The Journey, but guess what? Their journey's not mine. And that's what you got to understand. You can't, oh, well, they have another podcast. It's the same name, or this person's doing that, but they're not doing you. I'm me. I have my own journey. They have a journey. You have a journey. Everybody's got their own journey. They do their own thing. You are you. Nobody else is like you, right? Nobody's going to beat you at being you. So I want to close this up. I'm always open to suggestions for guests. You want to be a guest. If you have an idea for a topic on the podcast, I'm open. info@motivatemultimedia.com. That's my email, info@motivatemultimedia.com. Motivatemultimedia.com is my website. That's Motivate Multimedia is the company. The Journey is the podcast. And I have some other media that I'm working on. On there, I have minumentaries, which are like minute documentaries, like a minute or two documentaries, which I thought would be cool to kind of break up the monotony of everyday life. Hey, maybe you don't want to watch a 20-minute documentary. I'll make a minute or two documentary. I do the voiceover. I produce it. I do the video. And I got it on the website too, on YouTube. I'm at the Journey 420 on YouTube. 420 is my birthday. That's why it's the Journey 420. And it's kind of fitting. Like, really, I said, like, I've been on this journey, for 25 years or whatever. But really, it started April 20th when I was born. That's when the journey started on my birthday. So I want to leave it with maybe a fun fact of the day. Fact of the day is the Eiffel Tower can be 15 centimeters taller in the summertime due to thermal expansion. I thought that one was pretty interesting because my wife and I have been to Paris. We actually had dinner at the Eiffel Tower, and it was in the summertime, spring, summer, so it might have been a little bit warm. Maybe it wasn't the 15 centimeter taller Eiffel Tower. Maybe it was 7 or 8. I don't know, but I'm sure it was pretty warm at the time when we were there. That was a whole other story and experience. Paris, the Eiffel Tower, and I could share that story sometime, just not right now. So that's the fact of the day. 15 centimeters. It can be up to 15 centimeters taller in the summertime due to thermal expansion. Once again, motivatemultimedia.com, info@motivatemultimedia.com. You can always find me on Instagram, Facebook, Motivate Multimedia. I'm on LinkedIn. Check it out. And I'll see you next time. The Journey Podcast, telling one story at a time.